Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Skull Session Recruiting Podcast, brought to you by BuckeyeHuddle.com. I'm Marc Givler. It is OHSAA Football Championships week. The Ohio High School Football State Championships start on Thursday night in Canton, Ohio, going through Saturday night, 7 games, 7 divisions. Lots to talk about, lots of Ohio State intrigue, actually, in many of the games. So for that, I brought in Jared Luginbill from Prep Redzone, Ohio. Jared probably sees as many high school games as anyone in Ohio, so I thought this would be a good guest for everyone to discuss these big games here Thursday through Saturday this weekend. Of course, I will be up there. Jared, I believe, will be up there as well, but I'll be there providing coverage for Buckeye Huddle on all the Ohio State relevant guys and shooting video like we always do. So everyone check that out here this weekend. But we've got a really good slate of games this weekend. I'm maybe more excited about this weekend than I have been the last few years because some of the matchups just look right to me. We're going to go chronologically here. We're going to start with the first game on Thursday night, which is Division II, and it's Massillon, Washington. For those, I don't call them. I only call them Massillon, Washington when I'm speaking to a broader audience. We don't call them Massillon or Massillon, Washington when you're talking to someone from Massillon, but. They are playing Akron-Hoban. These two teams have met, feels like many, many times over the years in these types of situations. Is Massillon, Jared, this feels like their best team, yet it's not their most star-studded team. What is the explanation for this? Because they beat St. Ed's, in a 50-50 game. And Hoban lost. So that's the common opponent there is like they both played St. Ed's, who's number 1 in Division I and undefeated other than the Massillon game. Ed's beat Hoban by a touchdown. They lost a close one to Massillon, so they both played very close games. What about this year's Massillon team could maybe be different? Because we've seen them get here and kind of not get it done.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Mark. It is interesting. As you said, it's not one of their most star-studded teams, but I think the difference this year is DeJuan Owens, or Day One Owens at quarterback, and his ability to make explosive plays, be it with his arm, be it with his leg, and just the dynamic that brings to their offense and ability to just consistently move the ball, if not make explosive plays that result in touchdowns, is a dynamic that they haven't had, though they've had the star running backs or the star receivers. Right now, in my opinion, they have one of the best quarterbacks in the state right now, playing at the highest level of any quarterback. So, last week I was down in Columbus to see them play Anderson, and I want to say it was the second play from line of scrimmage. He busts a 60-plus yard run where, breaks a few tackles and all of a sudden he's gone. And, his ability to attack a team deep vertically with his arm, he can throw 55, 60 yards in the air, but also hurt you with his legs. Is hard for defensive coordinators to account for unless you have a really talented defense that can be multiple and do different things. And so that's where the intrigue of Hoban comes in here.
And Hoban does have a defense with some guys, and you can do multiple things. So how does this match up? I have kind of been on the I once upon a time picked against Hoban in one of these situations, and I kind of vowed never to do it again. So they're back here. They're loaded. They got experience. They've got talent. Their 2026 class is incredible. Got a few guys that Ohio State's offered already. They've got some other guys Ohio State may offer down the road. They've got the commitment from 2025 linebacker Eli Lee. So there's a lot of Ohio State intrigue if you're an Ohio State fan to watching this one on Thursday night. And if they can shut down this Massillon attack I did not go to the Anderson game. I had kind of seen a lot of them previously, so I just kind of passed on that one this weekend, but I was shocked how non-competitive that game was. That game was over like pretty quickly. Can Hoban slow them down?
Yeah, I think that's the big question. I was surprised too. I really thought though I didn't expect Anderson to win, I really thought it was going to be a game where it would at least be competitive late into this second half, with possibly Massillon pulling away at that point. But really, just from the very start, Massillon was hitting haymakers, and while Anderson did find their feet a little bit for a moment, it wasn't for long, and it's with all of the athleticism and speed of a Hoban defense. I think they can slow them down. I don't think anybody's going to stop them. You have guys like Jameer Gamble at running back, Mike Wright Jr., who's kind of an enigma. He's kind of their Refrigerator Perry for those of you who are old enough to remember who he is, but 280-pound defensive lineman who they'll put in at quarterback and basically just let him either blow up people or run over people. And I want to say he scored 3 touchdowns, I think, last Friday night. I kind of lost track there, but he's a fun watch, just because of kind of the characteristics there. But when you have a defense with guys like Eli Lee, Elbert Hill at cornerback, who Ohio State has offered and definitely loves, and Ace Young, I believe. Blanking on his last name, Ace. He's a edge player for their defensive line. So I think they do have the speed, and so kind of what they're going to be able to do is really lock down on the cornerback, wide receivers, and do more tight man-to-man coverage, and really let their front seven kind of take care of the middle and try to clean all of that up. And while you may give up a few outside runs every now and then, I think they'll be satisfied with that as long as they're contained, but not giving up that interior run that turns from a 5-yarder to a 65-yard touchdown. So, I think for me, more so the question on Hoban's side might be on offense, and a Tylen Boykin, first-year starter as a quarterback, maybe a little more of a runner than a thrower. Can they be two-dimensional enough? Can they do enough through the pass game to kind of keep that run game going? So definitely an interesting. Jordan Pritchard Sewell also in the middle of their defense, Holy Cross commit, who I've really liked. He's not the biggest guy. He's probably 270 pounds, 6 foot maybe, but really explosive, can shoot gaps, and can really disrupt things from the inside. So I think this Hoban defense is built to slow down a team like Massillon. And so that's where I think things are going to be interesting throughout this game. I could see it being a back and forth game. I don't really see either team pulling away at any point, unless, something crazy happens. But I expect a really good game throughout.
Yeah, this could be the best game of the weekend. And so that'll be kind of interesting to follow. There's a few things for me in this one. First of all, Eli Lee, and I'm not just saying this because this is like an Ohio State podcast. I think he's a huge key for them defensively, because not only is he kind of the guy who cleans everything up for them in the run game, but there's probably be situations where he's going to have to keep Owens from getting loose at the quarterback position. So he's, whether it's spying him or just making sure he's where he needs to be to not let that guy get loose and go for, have one of those 150, 200-yard rushing games. So that's a key matchup for me. The other thing, Hoban's offensive line is massive. Like, you look at them and I'm like, I watched them come out of the tunnel early in the season. I'm like, is that Notre Dame's offensive line? Like, it was just a huge, huge offensive line. Can they move the line of scrimmage against Massillon's defense? Because I think time of possession is going. I'm not always like big on time of possession. Like, sometimes you overrate that. I think that is going to be key here. Like, I think Hoban's going to have to play a little bit of keep away. I'm not. I think Massillon is maybe built more for the explosive play offensively. So I think Hoban, if they can kind of trestle ball this one a little bit, I think that's probably their easiest, best path to winning this game. But I think both teams can kind of win in different ways. I mean, we've seen Massillon go and put up 50-some points. We've seen them win against St. Ed's. I think it was like 15-13 or something ridiculous. Like, it was super low scoring. So both these teams, I think, are built to win kind of in a variety of ways. But I think that's maybe Hoban's best path. Jared, prediction. Does Massillon win? I won't say their first state championship because that'll get the natives riled up, but they've never won one on the field, technically. Is this the year, or does Hoban win another one?
I think it is. I think it's, I think it's going to be close. And so I'm thinking something in the realm of 28-21. Massillon, they're just able to make one of those explosive game-changing plays that result in a touchdown that ends up being the separation, because both teams are going to, I expect, to play clean games, for the most part penalty-free. And I think, to your point, I think Hoban will do a good job with their offensive line. Sam Greer, who Ohio State has offered, who kind of burst on the scenes, ironically, last year in the basketball state championships, 6'7", 6'8", 300 pounds. But this is the first year really getting going as an offensive lineman, as a starter for Hoban, and obviously Will Satterwhite is there as well, and a big-time recruit. So I think it'll be close, but I'm looking something in the neighborhood of 28-21 Massillon.
I vowed I would never pick against Hoban in these situations, so I'm going to stick with that. I will go with Hoban by a field goal, and probably I can't give away my entire scores because I'm going to do a written preview on Buckeye Huddle, so this will be posted within that. So I'll give my exact score on the website, but I'm going to go Hoban by a field goal.
Fair enough.
And again, I predict this will be the best game of the weekend. This will be the most exciting, entertaining, competitive game of the weekend, in my opinion. Moving on, the Friday, we got 3 games Friday. Some very familiar names Friday morning in D6, Kirtland and Versailles. Both of these teams have been here. Kirtland is here every year, whether it's regardless of which division they're in that year. Kirtland's here every year. Versailles has really had a nice run lately. They've won state championships. Which team here are you going to go with? We're not going to spend a ton of time on the lower division games, but we want to give them their run here too. I have not seen either team yet. I always kind of get to see them late in the year, so this is kind of my big one. You look at Kirtland and kind of what they do, and they're if they have it their way, they're going to throw the ball like 3 times on Friday morning. They're not going to throw the ball very much, and so you've got this like trestle ball thing with them on steroids. I mean, and then you've got Versailles, who generally speaking is going to score 40, 50 points. They've scored 40 or more in 4 of their 5 playoff games. They've went through some pretty good teams, Cincinnati Country Day, Anna from their part of the state, which is always a really good program. They've lost 2 games. They've lost to Marion Local by a point, who we're going to talk about Marion Local in a minute, and they lost to Coldwater by a touchdown in their league, which is the best small school league for my money in the entire country. So where do you kind of see this one stacking up on Friday morning, and what's your pick?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, Kirtland, obviously, big-time tradition as far as the football goes. Tiger Laverty, head coach, has done a masterful job there. His son, actually, Jake Laverty, is a sophomore quarterback and starter for him, who's actually established a 29-2 record over his first 2 seasons in years in high school, which is kind of an incredible record to me because, it's hard to win big-time high school football games with young quarterbacks. And, though they don't lean a lot on the passing game, he still does a great job of executing the offense. They have a couple 1,000-yard rushers I guess kind of where I lean towards in this matchup is as you said, the MAC conference and just what it brings week to week through the 10-game season. I feel does the best job of preparing its teams to play in the playoffs as any league, in the state, division withstanding or notwithstanding. The physicality that they're able to bring, they see that, on a week-to-week basis that, Kirtland's going to bring, and then I think, Michael Osborne, Versailles quarterback, missed a little time during the season, so his numbers aren't gaudy, but really good athlete at quarterback, can run it, can throw it. I kind of see them being a little more dynamic offensively and being able to do some different things, whereas I think it may be a little tougher for Kirtland. So I see it being a close game. I could see Versailles, maybe pulling away a little bit in the second half, but I would say something, I guess my prediction, I would say 35-24 Versailles, and it's a good game for probably 2.5 quarters to 3 quarters, and then Versailles is kind of able to put Kirtland down at the end.
I'm with you. I've got Versailles probably a little bit close. I'll say Versailles by like about a touchdown. I think it's probably I would go a little less scoring on my prediction, which you'll see later. But I agree. I think they're a little bit more dynamic offensively. I think they can score in more ways offensively, which is going to help them. Kirtland's defense is no joke. I mean, 7 shutouts this year. And their battle, I mean, they're not as battle tested. Like I said, Versailles plays, in my money, I think it's the best small school league in the country. I mean, it's unbelievable how good the MAC is. But Kirtland beat Dalton at the beginning of the year. Dalton's in the D7 game. They beat Dalton by a touchdown. Their loss is to Perry, who's 15-0 and in the D5 title game. So they've played some good teams. I don't think their road, other than maybe Garraway last week, which they won 17-0. I'm not sure their road was quite as difficult to get to where they are as Versailles. So I think maybe a little more battle tested, a little more dynamic offensively. So I will go with Versailles as well in a very competitive game that I think probably is a little bit low scoring. We'll see. There's been some weird games over the years with Kirtland where it's been like who can convert a 2-point conversion. Like you get some wild scores in Kirtland games. You'll get like a 15-11 or something. Like I could see something like that over on Friday morning. But I'm with you on Versailles. Midday on Friday, Division III. This is a good one. This is a really good one. This is 2 teams with a lot of history. Undefeated Toledo Central Catholic looking to repeat. Columbus Bishop Watterson 14-1. Watterson had some lean years in the not too distant past. Pretty recently, they had some lean years. They had a great run there in the late 2000s, early like 2010s. They had a state championship. They've historically been a great program. They are very much back. This is an interesting game. I think we're going to see maybe some differing styles. Watterson's kind of built on toughness. Don't turn it over. Be efficient. Toledo Central Catholic's got quite a bit of speed. I'm struggling on this one. I think I know where I want to go, but I think the immediate thought is going to be Toledo Central Catholic. But I've seen Watterson in this environment do that. I mean, they beat Buckeye many years ago. Corey Smith, like they had a bunch of dudes, bunch of speed, and everyone kind of thought Buckeye was going to run around them. It didn't happen. So how do you kind of see this playing out? And can Toledo Central Catholic be stopped? Because they're on quite a run right now.
Yeah, I think, Bishop Watterson's kind of for NFL fans, kind of, to me, a Steelers type team where they just want to muck it up. they want to win whatever it takes. They don't care if it's pretty. They don't care if there's a lot of points scored. They're looking to make the play at the right time. Offensively, defensively, they're looking to play fast and physical. Don Purcell, finalist for the Mr. Football Ohio, has done a great job as kind of a quasi linebacker safety type player. He's headed to Navy to play football there. And so they definitely have some dudes there. Braxton Rundio, another nice linebacker player. So they like to flow to the ball. It'll be interesting for me to see offensively, or rather defensively, how they handle the passing attack of Toledo Central Catholic. And I kind of think that's where this game's going to be determined, because I think Watterson will be able to move the ball some. I don't think it's, again, going to be big plays or anything of that nature. I think it's going to be grinded out type drives. But when you sometimes your best defense is keeping the other offense off of the field, and so I think that's what they're going to look to do, is try to shorten the game. And so where things are going to be determined is, can Toledo hit some explosives on them and really make them have to say, all right, we got to play catch up now. If Toledo can do that, I think they win. If not, I think it's going to be really back and forth, battle tested game. And I personally see Toledo Central Catholic winning. I just think they have a few more horses, I guess, so to speak, to run with. But guys like Jalen Watson, who's committed to Iowa in the passing game, Preston Frizel, who's a 26, who's got a really bright future, long athletic receiver. On running back, Marquand Braswell and Tyler Morgan are both really strong running backs. And so, to me, it's going to have to be up in the line of scrimmage. Like Hoban, TCC just has some really big dudes, guys that like Mark Nov, who was committed to Ohio State, now Kentucky, Elijah Williams, who is committed to Kent State as an offensive lineman. So Mike Cannings along the defensive line, and I think he plays some guard on offense. So they got dudes that are big and can move people. So for them, it's going to be a matter of, up front holding that line of scrimmage some and giving themselves a chance. If I had to guess, I would say something in the realm of 27-17 Toledo Central Catholic is kind of where I would be leaning right now.
Watterson's really going to have to control this thing offensively, and I think they're going to have to force at least 2 turnovers. Mm-hmm. This isn't against Watterson. This is by Division III standards. I mean, and we've seen some really good D3 teams because Hoban's been down there at times. Division III in Ohio can sometimes be much stronger than you would think it would be. Mm-hmm. This is as good of a Division III team as you're going to ever see in Ohio. Let's just quickly talk about their schedule. I mean, they beat Findlay, Division I team, by 33. Ryan Montgomery. They beat perennial Division I area, Division I Toledo area powerhouse Whitmer, 35-8. They beat Detroit Catholic Central, 42-21, big time, top big school program in Michigan. Now, St. Ignatius was bad this year, but they beat St. Ignatius 28-0. They beat Cass Tech 48-23. This is a team who rolled through a Division I schedule, essentially. The only team that gave them trouble was Warren De La Salle, another big school program in Michigan who's really good, and they beat them 28-23. They've won 4 of their 5 playoff games by at least 4 touchdowns. Closest team was Defiance, and that was 41-26. This is a team who
really has mowed through a very good schedule. I love the way Watterson plays football. And I think stylistically, this is probably the style you have to play to beat them. I don't think you can just line up and say we're gonna go score for score, shot for shot with you. I think this is the type of team that you have to have if you want to upset them. But this team is so good. This team could have been a Final Four team in Division I, in my opinion, this year. I think they were probably better than just about anyone in Central Ohio. And they were certainly the best team in Toledo, as we saw in the results. So I'm going to say Central Catholic. I think they're going to score a little more than that, unless Watterson is really able to put the clamps down with some turnovers and control, but really more so control on their end. Can they go 4 yards in a cloud of dust here? But be aggressive. Force some turnovers. Hope you don't give up too many big plays, and try and keep in possession of the ball. If it's 4th and 2, unless you're at your own 20, go for it. You're gonna have to really pull out all the stops, I think, just to deal with this team. So, yeah, I'll say Toledo Central Catholic I'll say 2 touchdowns. I'll give my score later.
To your point, too. I heard from somebody, Toledo Central Catholic actually scrimmaged. Again, it's a scrimmage, but scrimmaged Akron-Hoban before the season. And my understanding was they pretty much handled them, which even adds more to that. This is not your typical D3. As you said, I totally agree. They could have been a top 4 team in D1 as well.
So we'll see. We'll see if Watterson can slow them down. I think that's an interesting game just to see the difference in styles and everything else. So let's go to D1 now. That's going to be Friday night. And I think we saw it. We knew it was possible 3 years ago or 2 years ago, a couple years ago. We definitely thought it was possible last year. Did anyone think 6 weeks ago we were going to get a three-peat of Springfield and St. Ed's? Because Springfield, Mo Douglas has a state championship. He's been to Canton several times. This, to me, is his best coaching job. That team was left for dead by the middle of the season. They had some injuries, but they just put everything together here. I've watched them in the playoffs already. I did see them. Watched them upset Olentangy, who I thought would come out of that region. Everything is clicking right now, but they've lost 5 games this year. Again, all early, but this team was left for dead. How surprised are you that this is the matchup we're getting again? I think everyone thought St. Ed's would be here.
Absolutely. Very, very surprised. As you said, the early going of the season was a struggle, and most anybody understands. Playing quarterback at a school like Springfield with the kind of expectations a Springfield normally has is a lot. And so Brett Umpshaw, missed some time with injury. Things just didn't come together right away, and sometimes I think injuries and adversity, while it can drag teams down, I think it can reveal things about yourself. I think one thing that it did for Springfield's team was reveal that they can be a running team. The last couple of years, they've relied very heavily on their passing game with Bryce Schonelmeyer and Tayshawn Smoot. Both great players in their own right, but one of the things that you have to be able to do against teams like Moeller, who they did beat last year, and a team like they're going to see on Friday night is be able to possess the ball and be able to run the ball and get yards on the ground to keep the clock moving and to keep the opposing offense off of the field. And I think one of the things that this year did was it brought Javen Bebe Norman to the forefront. He has over 1,200 yards now, I think, on the season. Really, he's a small but dynamic running back who they've really leaned on. Their offensive line has come together, and I think done the best job of any of the state teams that they've had the last 3 years in terms of run blocking and really handling the line of scrimmage. Upshaw has done a good job of finding his feet and being what they need him to be. That's not a 300-yard thrower. That's, make the right play at the right time to keep the offense moving and to complement the run, because they have the receivers that can make, stretch the field vertically and make defenses respect that. But if you don't have a quarterback that can execute that kind of play, then they don't have to respect that. And so he's done a good job of growing himself as a quarterback. And as you said, the linchpin, Mo Douglas, you can just never count him out. His teams are fighters. They're always scrappy. They never, say die. They're like that snake. You can cut its head off 3 times and it still appears. And I think one of the most interesting things I've seen, and we talked about him last year after state championships, is Aaron Scott. And I've never doubted his athleticism. Obviously, you don't find 6'2", 180, 190-pound cornerbacks that can run like he does every day. But I really think from a mentality and a just get-it-done standpoint, he's taken his game to another level. Both you and I, Mark, were at the the Olentangy game at Hilliard Derby, and Aaron basically said, ball game. Like, I'm taking this over. Offensively, out of the Wildcats, scored a couple touchdowns, or at least one touchdown.
Yep.
And defensively had a big time interception of Penn State commit Ethan Grunkmeyer in the end zone that thwarted an offensive touchdown there. Their team is coming together. They have a lot of skilled players that can make plays. I just think it's maybe the best well-rounded team. Maybe not the best players overall, but I really like this team. I don't know if they can beat St. Ed's, but I think they have a chance to play with them.
What I noticed watching them this year is a couple things. I think they have 2 of the most under-recruited, underrated players in the state in Deshaun Martin, who's a big-time receiver, defensive back. I think a lot of schools are recruiting him to play defensive back. The way he can make these circus catches, I would be recruiting him to play receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think he's Kent State? I think Kent State's got him committed.
Mm-hmm.
Indiana's about to go through a coaching change. If I'm Indiana, that's like the first call I'm making.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a dynamic player. You also have, and you talked about him, is Javen Norman. Almost 1,300 yards now. Talk about a playoff run. They get in, and he goes like 81 in a touchdown against Wayne. He goes like 16 for 70 against Centerville. But then he goes 22 for 200 against Olentangy with a couple touchdowns, and 21 for 197 for 2 touchdowns against Kaufman. I mean, he's had an unbelievable playoff run. He runs hard. He's kind of that low center of gravity, and once he gets in the secondary, he's gone. So this is a guy who I don't think has anything going on recruiting wise. So if like MAC schools, like, hello, like let's wake up here. So I think they've got those guys, kind of these unsung heroes of their team. But you said it, Aaron Scott has to be their best player, and he's been their best player. Like, he's been unbelievable on both sides of the ball. They put him in at quarterback, he makes something happen. They put him in wherever. I think they're going to need. He is going to need to, for Ohio State fans, he's going to need to put on his Chris Gamble costume, I think, on Friday night. I think he has to be a part of the offense and not just like fourth quarter, like, we need you, it's close. Like, I think he's got to come out and he's got to play both ways. I think he has largely got to play both ways. I think this is a game he can try to do that, because St. Ed's is going to try to bully them up front with the running game. And they have some receivers. I'm not downplaying St. Ed's receivers, but this isn't the Olentangy game where you're going to be shadowing Jackson Wiley all over the field, and Grunkmeyer's going to throw it 40 times. You're going to be running and running and running all over the field all night. Eds is going to pound the football. So you're going to get a little bit of a break at times on defense. There may even be series you can steal where you don't even need to be out there the entire series. You can just put, they've got athletes. They can put someone else in a corner while St. Ed's tries to run between the tackles the entire series. So he's going to have to be a part of things, I think, offensively. And so we'll see what they cook up on that. I've picked Springfield in the past on the East. Just I can't believe I've underestimated St. Ed's, but I've done it. I can't do it again. I don't know. Ed's has kind of been the team I've pegged from beginning of the year. Is like, I'm actually shocked they lost to Massillon. I'm shocked they're not undefeated right now. But that offensive line, Ben Roebuck, Deontay Armstrong. You got a Michigan and 2 Ohio State guys up front. You got I love that little sophomore running back they have. He's really good. It's not as dynamic of a team on the perimeter as they've had in the past offensively. They've always seemed to have some of those big play receivers. Do they really have a guy like that? I mean, they've got some good players. I don't know that they've got like the guy who scares you. But they know who they are. And I don't think any program in the state has the identity and culture they have right now, as far as this is what we do, this is who we are, and everyone's bought in, and good luck stopping us. We're gonna bully you for 48 minutes. And so I think they are going to be able to play ball control here. Keep some of those playmakers from Springfield on the sidelines. Don't let Aaron, again, if you've got the ball, Aaron Scott can't hurt you because you're probably running it 80% of the time. And if you've got the ball, he also can't hurt you with his legs on offense because you got the ball. So I think they can minimize Aaron Scott's impact on this game, which is kind of unfortunate if you're Springfield. But I think it's going to be another one of those St. Ed's gets to 21 first and is able to hold on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can definitely see that too. That was kind of a lot like the Moeller game this year where, St. Ed's really kind of controlled the game, a lot of the game, but gave up a couple late touchdowns to Moeller that really kind of, made things close. But, it's going to be, as you said, very reliant on Springfield being able to find a way to keep their offense on the field. And I, if I were Mo Douglas, I would be, or Chris Wallace, who, is another part of offense coordinator of Springfield, has done a wonderful job and, is as good as any OC in the state for my money. Would be doing everything I can to find a way for Aaron Scott to make a difference on the offensive side of the ball to help possess that ball. So I agree. I'm probably somewhere in the 24-14 St. Ed's. They may get a late either field goal or touchdown that kind of seals it. But I'm hoping for a great game. We'll see. See how the defensive line can stand up to that huge Ed's offensive line and what they can do defensively to counteract with some stunts and blitzes and to try to counteract that offensive run game.
Yeah, I think it'll be competitive. I really do. I think Springfield's got plenty of experience in these situations, and they've got great athletes, and I think they probably enter this game feeling even better about themselves than they maybe have in the past because of where they've came from. And it is worth noting, before we kind of move on to some of the other games, it's worth noting a couple of years ago they wouldn't have made the playoffs. They were the 12 seed in their region, so the expanded playoffs are the only reason they got in. They only expanded the playoffs this is the third year, I think. So
great point.
Very interesting that they've made. I would have never thought, certainly not within the first 3 years, I would have never thought that we'd be talking about a Division I team going all the way to the state championship game who wasn't in the top 8 in their region. When they expanded the playoffs, I'm like, well, it's cool. It's like another week of games for me. Like, it's another opportunity to see guys. But I'm like, we're not going to be a 12 seed from a Division I region that's going to make the state championship. That's never going to happen. Well, here it did. So
Here it is.
Yeah, you think of the schools and the loaded conferences that
beat up on each other.
Your Max or a GMC out of Cincinnati, where they just take a lot of hard losses to good teams. That ends up hitting getting hit in the seeds. But definitely a different situation here.
Yep. So let's move on. D7 Saturday morning. I put out a tweet like every year at this time. So look for that on Saturday morning because it's probably coming again. Every year at this time during their inevitable state championship victory, I put out a tweet that says Maria Stein Marion Local is the best high school football program in the state of Ohio. And maybe the country. And here they are again, 15-0. Facing a 13-1 Dalton team? 13-1 Dalton team from right down the road. So Dalton doesn't have to go. I drive right through that little town every time I go up to Canton. Yep. A few times a year. I drive right through Dalton. They got the little Darriette there on the right. Mm-hmm. I got a Wendy's there sometimes. So I'm familiar with the town, but this is kind of a new. This is not a program I've seen, I don't think, ever play. So I'm kind of intrigued by that. It's a great story. Again, tiny little town, about 30 minutes west of Canton. In the shadow of Massillon and McKinley and, all these other programs that get all the attention. And so here they are trying to slay the dragon. Let's get to, can they just be competitive in this game is really the question for me. Like Marion Local is such a ridiculous machine. I don't know. I know like there's these competitive balance rules, so I don't know how they ended up in 7. Like there should be like a new statewide rule that Marion Local can never play in Division 7. Like that should just be like Marion Local should have to play like Division 5, like in perpetuity.
There are a lot of schools that'd be really happy about that.
Yeah. So they beat it's crazy. Now, ironically, they were given a game twice this year. And I think this is why I went with Versailles in D6. They beat Versailles by a point. So Versailles gave them everything they could handle, and they beat Wapakoneta by 3 at the beginning of the year. Wapakoneta is a big, powerful Division III program. And Marion Local is a little D7 program, which means they have, 70 boys in their school, was able to beat them at their place. Here's their playoff scores. How about this? 63-0, 69-0. Minster, a league rival, gave them all they could handle, 28-7. 48-0, 42-0. 4 shutouts, 4 wins by 42 or more. Closest game, 28-7. Can Dalton possibly put up a fight here?
I think so. Stands to say, with Marion Local, and I always like to joke, it's the land of, cornfields and the high school field literally sits next to a grain elevator and you have, $8,000 50-50s, at games are not an enigma. They're a common occurrence, because really the only other thing to do other than the football game is a Moeller Brew barn down the road, and so, they kind of eat, breathe, and sleep it. And it kind of goes for the kids too. And Coach Goodwin, to his credit, is always having coaches in that want to take a look and say, how do you do it? It's, yes, he's a good coach. He probably is more humble than he should be at times because, a lot of this is his work, but, they're a program that does it the right way. They do it all the time the right way, whether that be in June and or August 2-a-days or on Friday in October, and when you watch them play, they play clean. They put hat on hat, both sides of the ball, because I look at them and I don't see a team that has fantastic measurables, their offensive line, defensive line aren't, as big as some of them have been, so it's not they're not overpowering people. They execute at such a high rate that it really makes you have a small margin of error to be able to function and still win. And Dalton is a team, as you mentioned, I think first state championship in school history, facing a team looking for their 14th state championship, 47th straight win or season win. But they have a quarterback in Colin Pierce, who is a guy who can throw it and run it. They're really a ball possession offense. They have running backs. Tomlinson, I think, is one of them's names, and Riders, who do a nice job running the ball. They have a big offensive lineman by last name, a Layman, who does a really nice job clearing things out on the offensive line. So I really think they're going to have to control the ball, obviously. But one of the things that I think helps them is they did play a Kirtland team tough, so they know that they can withstand a physical, tough style of game that a MAC conference kind of team is gonna bring. So I would hope that has kind of proven in their own heads that we can play with this team. And we got to play well. We can't make many mistakes, but we play the way we can play. That they've had a pretty, as far as game spreads and running clocks, have had a pretty easy road to the state championship game as well. And I think that's a credit to how good a team they are. And so I obviously I'm not going to necessarily bet against Marion Local, but I honestly believe, there is something to that high school momentum, that community pride. This is their first time their community makes that 25-minute drive or whatever it is, Tom Benson Stadium, to represent their school and their community. They're going to be jacked. And so hopefully they can harness that into, executing at a high level and doing the things that it takes to affect winning, and put together a game that can, bring them home a win.
It's an awesome story. I look at Marion Local, 1, 2, 3. I'm counting the number of games they gave up 7 points or less this year. They're 15-0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 out of their 15 games they gave up 7 points or less. One of those other 4, they gave up 8. 6 shutouts. And again, they're playing in the best small school league in the state and maybe in the country. They're such a machine, but you kind of nailed it with the measurables thing. I always laugh at watching Marion Local because I know they had the kid that went to Notre Dame a few years ago, the big lineman, but most years they show up and it's like you look at their sideline and it's like a row of gingerbread men. Every player on the team's 5'10", 5'11", 185, 190 pounds. Every single kid, their left tackle, their quarterback, their running back, their safety, their linebacker, they're the same kid. They've cloned 40 kids it's like a row of gingerbread men on the side. That's hilarious. And they go out there and they beat the crap out of everybody. So yeah, I think Dalton will be able to prevent the running clock. I think they'll keep maybe things from getting out of hand. I don't know where the points are going to come from. I think, we talk about the Waterston-Toledo Central Catholic dynamic, about how Waterston was kind of built, while we're not picking Waterston to be Toledo Central Catholic, Waterston is kind of the contrast of style you need if you're hopeful of pulling off an upset. I think it's the opposite here. I don't know how you beat Marion Local at a ball possession game. I really don't. I think to beat Marion Local, you have to be able to spread the field, throw it a little bit, have some athletes on the outside that can make a guy miss and go 70 yards. I don't know how you just line up and possess the ball, and I don't think you can beat them that way. I think Marion Local is going to win. Again, I think Dalton's, going to be one of those 11, 12, one of those 12 teams that scored 8 or less against them this year.
And I think maybe the defense and the ball possession will help them kind of keep Marion Local from putting up one of those like 60-0 we've seen. We've seen them do it in the state championship games. We've seen them have running clock But I think Dalton will ride some energy and kind of limit mistakes, try and possess the ball a little bit. And so I don't think it's going to be an embarrassment, but I don't see a path here to knocking off this team. This team's just too good.
Yeah, obviously I'm trying to be optimistic. It's clear that a team like Dalton is probably going to struggle to get to even 14 points. We talked about 7 points, 8 points, being kind of the average. So, limiting how much they can score is going to help you keep you in the game more so than you probably scoring on your own. So, I think if they can keep Marion Local out of the end zone, that's a win for them each time it happens. Hopefully they can find a few points of their own along the way.
Yep, might need to force some turnovers. I just hard to play the sustainable. It's hard to play the drive 70, 80 yards game against Marion Local. They'll play that game with you all day.
Yep.
D5 Saturday afternoon. Don't sleep on this one. We got two 15-0 teams. 15-0 Perry, 15-0 Liberty Center. Two really good programs sandwiched between kind of two of the great programs in Ohio and Marion Local early, and then we'll get Glenville late. That'll be the last game we talk about. What do you see here? Because this one's interesting to me. I haven't seen either team this year live. Again, 15-0 certainly means something. That's serious. Perry's beat Kirtland. They had a nice win last week against Harvest Prep, a really good Harvest Prep team. Beat them 22-8. I'm looking at their schedule here. It's again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times they've held an opponent to single digits, and then 3 other times it's been 14 or less. So they're not giving up much. They're not as explosive as maybe we've seen. Like Marion Local, you see it's like 60-0 on there. Perry's generally scoring. I mean, they've had a few games. They beat a team that was 0-10. They beat them 50-0. But generally speaking, they're getting to about 30, 35. So they're not, it's not like they're scoring 70 out there every game. So I could see this maybe being a little bit lower scoring, a very competitive game. I mean, how do you see this playing out?
Yeah, I like Perry in this game. They have a quarterback, Walter Moses, who is getting quite a bit of Division I, Group of 5 interest, MAC schools and schools of the like. So they have an offense that's a little more diverse than Liberty Center. Liberty Center is just kind of a physical. They're an old school ground and pound type team. They actually have triplets on the team, the Cruzes, and 2 of the brothers are the top 2 leading rushers on the team, Colton and Trenton, I believe. And so to me, Perry's kind of seen all kinds of teams as when you went through. I was thinking, Harvest Prep's one kind of team, and and Kirtland's kind of a different kind of team. And, I feel like they've seen a lot of different styles and beat a lot of different styles. I'm not sure that Liberty Center is going to be able to be dynamic enough to move the ball enough to get this done. They're going to have to find a way to make a few explosive plays, I think, because I think Perry, though they haven't scored as much, I think they're going to be able to possess the ball a little bit more, just because they're going to have the pass and the rushing offense to kind of complement each other a little bit more. So I'm kind of thinking, to me, I kind of maybe saw this more as one of my further spreads. I was kind of thinking something more in the line of, of a 30-14 14, something like that. I don't think that Liberty Center is going to be able to keep. They're going to be able to slow them down, but I don't think they're going to be able to keep Perry out of the end zone. And I just don't seeing them being able to sustain enough drives to put a lot of points on the board or enough to keep up.
Yeah, I'm going to go Perry too. I think it's going to be low scoring. I really do. Liberty Center's, I think, has not given up more than 14 all year. Now they haven't, in my opinion, they've not played the schedule that Perry has played, but they've done well defensively. They do keep the ball away from you a little bit. I saw Walter Moses, Perry's quarterback, early in his career. I haven't seen him this year, so I'll be curious to kind of see his development from the last time I saw him. But Perry's got a lot of experience in these types of big game. They've had some good runs here the last several years, and so I'll go Perry in a lower score. I think first to 20 is going to win this thing. So I'll give my exact score later, as I said before. But I think Perry wins a low scoring games. Like you said, I think they've got more paths to scoring points than Liberty Center has. All right, let's wrap it up with D4. And I hope you stuck around, because if you're an Ohio State fan, this is plenty of intrigue. Ted Ginn Sr. finally gets his state championship last year, and here he is back again. Glenville will face Archbishop Alter. So this is a good one. You talk about two really good programs who, 10 years ago, you probably would have never thought they would play in a state championship game. They were so far apart division-wise. But here we are. Alter gets there again. They've been here many, many times over the years, as of course has Glenville. I look at this and I'm like, all year I thought no one in Division 4 is going to touch Glenville. Like no one really did last year, and no one's going to do that. This was a very last year was a very junior-driven team in a lot of ways. So who's going to actually do it this year? But, Alter is the type of program that I think can make things competitive. They are generally not going to beat themselves, not going to get overwhelmed by Glenville's speed and just, fumble it and throw interceptions. They're generally not going to do that. They're going to play disciplined. They're going to play a huge pain in the butt style of offense to face. You're going to have Glenville's defense is going to have to be disciplined. They can 3 yards in a cloud of dust you. I still, spoiler alert, don't think I'm going to pick against Glenville, but isn't this kind of the Waterson Central Catholic thing where it's like, we're not necessarily picking it, but this is maybe the type of team you would have to have if you hope to upset them?
Yeah, I think it is. Glenville's kind of been an interesting team for me the last couple of years because, they boast all these athletes, skilled players that can run, hit, on defense. And yet the team, to me, my money has given them the biggest challenge over the last 2 years was a Van Wert team. Now, granted, last year the conditions were not great. It was a snowy day, but Van Wert's primarily an all-throw offense. Which kind of surprised me. I honestly almost think if Glenville had their druthers, they would almost rather play a defense where they can just line up and just play physical ball and not worry about, eye candy and spread formations. And I think they would rather just, get downhill and just see ball, hit ball, get ball. I think they have as much this year as they had in the past players to do it. Jameel Ham has really burst on my scene. I saw him as a freshman at Ohio State's camp and got to talk to him a little bit then, and he was all keyed up, and as every kid is to be at Ohio State camp. But if you would have told me within a couple of years that he would have been on a visit to Ohio State, I would have had my reservations. But he's developed as much physically as any player I've seen in a while. Just both growth in stature, growth in game. So he's a big player on that defensive line. But you also have players, and granted, he's young, Sincere Johnson, another big young sophomore linebacker. I think he's 6'3", 6'4", 220, can run. This is a team that I think their defense kind of embodies the same philosophy and character as their offense of, we're going to just punch you in the mouth, and then we're going to punch you in the mouth again. And, a team like Wyoming, to me, last year is kind of what Alter is this year. You had C.J. Hester, really good running back at Western Michigan now. And they just wanted to pound, and take their shots, and there just wasn't anything there. To me, that's kind of what I see when I look at this game. I could see this one getting away, especially if there's a few turnovers. Obviously, Arvell Reese isn't there to intercept the ball anymore, but you still have players like Bryce West and all those guys on the defensive side of ball of Glenville, and so it's going to have to be a ball possession, very limited mistakes, high execution, type game for me to see Alter be able to hang around in this, because Glenville's ability to pound on offense and take that long shot to Demarion, or hit Demarion on a bubble screen and he takes it. They just have so many weapons. I don't see a path where Alter is able to put together many drives that end in points, I guess.
Yeah, this can't get into an up and down game for sure. My big thing is for them, and you kind of mentioned it, I don't think they're going to have an answer for Demarion Witten. I don't know that anyone in Division 4 would have an answer. I think you'd need like Central Catholics, athletes in D3 or a D1 team to have an answer for Demarion Witten. I mean, it just the different things. I mean, he can play quarterback. You can put him at quarterback. You can put him at receiver. You can put him at tight end. You could put him at running back. I mean, there are a million ways he can get the football. He's dangerous after the catch. He's impossible on jump balls.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that basketball athleticism at 6'3". I think he'll be the difference. He was pretty much the difference last year for them. They kind of struggled to create offense last year against Wyoming, but Witten made a couple of special plays, and that was kind of that. I think that'll be the case again. 2 Ohio State commits there, Witten and Bryce West. So Ohio State fans want to watch that on Saturday night. Sorry, you guys won't have anything else to watch Saturday night. You don't want to watch the Big Ten Championships. Watch Glenville. Watch Glenville, guys. Trust me. Lower the blood pressure a little bit. Watch Glenville. Get excited about your recruiting class. Don't watch Fox. All right, that'll do it. We've covered all 7. Great weekend of games. I can't wait. We'll have coverage on BuckeyeHuddle.com. Jared will have coverage on Prep Redzone Ohio. Maybe we'll catch up with Jared afterwards and do some post-game stuff. But appreciate everyone watching and listening, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you, Jared.
Thanks, Mark.